Welcome back to another episode of the Parade Lap podcast. We have lots to talk about in this one because this Grand Prix was a good one.
Yeah.
We were in Miami and so much happened. We had a sprint race. We had a very good Grand Prix. So yeah, first thoughts. What do you think?
Yeah, no, it was an exciting race. So I think last week for Saudi, I kind of thought that one wasn't that exciting, in a way, also because I was on holiday. But I watched all of this. So the full weekend with the sprint, which was really exciting already, like the mini race, and then qualifying, and then obviously the race itself. I think it was also the weather conditions. So I don't know if we'll get into it, but obviously the fact that
Yeah,
I didn't expect it to be rainy in
I did not
Miami at
expect it
all.
to
I
be
thought it was
raining.
just expected it to be a really hot, like warm race. And so that was unexpected, and caused quite a few things to happen, during the sprint. And McLaren obviously doing very well. Ferrari, oh, we'll get into it. Like, oh no,
They had some
come on,
blue going
Ferrari.
on.
Yeah, like Ferrari tears, basically. And
Uh-huh.
I think a bit of like Max being Max. So that was, yeah. And I don't know, I somehow always forget that Mercedes is in there in the mix. And I feel like this race just brought that situation back again. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, they
yeah.
were very much in the mix. Yeah, I thought
Mm,
it was such a good one. I thought, admittedly, I didn't follow this race weekend as
mm,
closely as I would have otherwise, but I thought the sprint race was maybe the best sprint we'd have ever seen. Like it was exciting
mm.
and it was different enough to the Grand Prix, which is sort of ironic considering one of my points of how the top three went. But yeah, it was a good one. It was like this is what a sprint race should be. It was exciting. Yeah, there was lots of action. It was just a good weekend all round. I thought it was very entertaining, provided lots of entertainment and some
Yeah.
very good memes and on track action as well. So we were spoiled.
Definitely. I think so many things that I'm quite curious to see what made your top three because I feel like there was probably quite a few things to choose from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we can kick off the podiums.
Hmm.
Would you like to start with your P3?
Yes, I will start with my P3. I mean, my P3 could be also the meme of the week, but
Uh-huh.
I'll put it there. But it was, oh my God, the Ferrari team radio and their strategy. Oh no, what was going
Hmm.
on? I felt for Lewis, like, when you could just hear, like, and obviously in his mess, like, how frustrated he was. But it was also interesting to see, like, or hear sassy Lewis, basically, because we've had a few
Yeah.
sassy messages and, Albon talking to his team. But, I don't think, there's been obviously Lewis trying to adjust, but here he was genuinely just frustrated, right? And the
Yeah.
situation I was thinking in particular was when, he was telling them, like, do you want to have a cup of tea while you're at it? Or, like, and there were a few other things. And the reason he was doing that was because, he had pitted, he came out on fresh tires. I think he may have been the quickest person on the track, like, had set a really good lap. And, I think it was also at the point where like Carlos and Charles were like actually battling it out, which was interesting because they were like former teammates. And then you've got
Yeah.
Lewis who had has taken Sainz's seat effectively behind him. And while they were battling it out, Lewis like went past and got in front of Sainz and then was behind Charles and he wanted to go and sort of catch up and try and get Kimmy. And um they didn't he wanted them to switch the cars and they didn't. And
Mm.
or they said stand by, like just wait. Actually, they should have just said we're not going to do it. They shouldn't have just said stand by and wait, which was really silly because then he was burning his tires and obviously like getting going to get slower, so it was such a bad call. And then he was like, this is not good team strategy. Do you want to make a cup of tea while you're at it? And just getting increasingly frustrated. And then they switched back again. So it looked like, then Charles was behind complaining that like this wasn't good because he could get in front of Lewis at that point and try and maybe, I don't know, catch Kimmy. And but Lewis was like closing the gap down. Right, and I think I heard some commentary afterwards saying, he had actually closed it and maybe they could have just let him continue, or, ideally
Mm.
they should have just let him go straight away. And then at some point they told him that Sainz was like 1.4 behind, and Lewis was like, "Well, do you want me to let him pass too?"
I liked
Which
that.
I know, Which I thought was really funny and just summarized like that whole situation. So yeah, he was like very unimpressed. And I did watch the commentary afterwards, and I think when Lewis, was being interviewed post the race, he did bounce back though. So when he came back, he was much more not going into it as negatively and sort of just handled it, I think, way more maturely than the radio messages that went out. But yeah, that was my third one. It was just so painful to listen
Yeah,
to. Yeah.
yeah. And kind of rightly so that he's frustrated. Yeah, like at the start of the season, we were sort of like, oh, it must just be because he's like, setting boundaries of how he wants to be communicated with. But now it's just past the point of he must just be like, are you not listening to me? Like it's just pure annoyance at this stage. But yeah, it was weird to hear
Hmm.
so much attitude coming from him because usually he's very well spoken and like reserved when he does interviews and stuff. So yeah, he's being unleashed. Yeah,
He is, and it just highlights again how important the communication is in these teams, right? Especially with the
yeah,
race engineers and the drivers, and
yeah,
being able to give them good answers and, I guess these strategy calls and like making decisions or saying why or doing something and not just sort of leaving them hanging and, making what looks like really bad calls from the outside. So, yeah.
yeah, yeah. My P3 is a quite different to your one.
Mm,
My P3 is something that I enjoy in almost every race, and I think we're quite lucky that we get to see it so much, and there will be more of it. And it is this kind of storyline of Max versus the McLarens, whether it's Lando or Oscar. He always seems to have a little bit of a battle on track, which makes perfect sense. They're the ones they're like the top three.
yeah.
Um, but they're always really entertaining to watch because you really just don't know what's going to happen. You know that they're all incredibly fast,
Mm-hmm.
and you sort of know how each of them sort of drive
Yeah.
and how they interact with each other. But nothing is guaranteed. Like
Mm,
someone will be run off the road, someone will get a penalty, someone will crash. Like I, I really enjoy watching them. Yeah, just Max take on the McLarens because it really is back to the thing of like Red Bull is like it's Max's team. Like he's the one getting the points and
mm,
everything
mm-hmm.
against this team with two drivers that are doing very well in terms of bringing points home. Yeah, so I really enjoy watching Max versus the McLarens. I just think it's cool to watch. It's exciting, and we get a different dose of it every week. And yeah, it's just I like it. That's my P3.
I think your P3 is basically my P2 in a
Uh
way
huh.
because I said it's slightly it's similar, but maybe I've said it a bit differently. But I said it was Oscar's overtake on Max, but
Hmm.
it is about those like battles that they have because in doing that, I thought, you know, Oscar had to be clever and strategic in how he did that, and we watched it like unfold, right? He was trying and
Hmm.
trying. And then, the commentator was saying they told Max to like stay on the inside and like make sure he did that, like kept doing that. And so obviously he was going to keep doing that. And it was like, okay, well, how do you try and do something different and actually get
Hmm.
past him? And then when he did actually do it, okay, I'm not an expert, so I don't know exactly the nuances of exactly what he was doing there with the braking and then going that way, but he obviously knew that Max was going to, it's like almost like chess or something where you've got to be a couple of moves ahead, right? So he was
Yeah.
like, okay, well, Max is going to do this. So I'll do that. But then I'll do this because I know that Max will probably react like that. And then I'll end up like moving past him. And I just thought it was really clever, like the way he changed it up and then stuck to it and then got away from him. It was like
Hmm.
so confident and really well executed. And I don't think Max was expecting it.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I thought that was also really interesting compared to how Lando then had to try and overtake Max, and he just didn't do it in the same way. And it was that thing that I think we spoke about at the Saudi thing, where
Yeah.
I think Max knows he can like bully Lando a bit more, and like sort of push him off if he needs to, and Lando will move, whereas
Hmm.
Oscar does something a bit different.
He
But
doesn't
it
budge.
no, but it's interesting. I like what you said there because it's like when you watch them, and if Max is trying to overtake or they're trying to overtake Max, you don't quite know what's going to happen or how they're going to do
Hmm.
that. So it is very interesting and exciting to watch.
Yeah, it's very exciting. That what you just said reminded me of an interview I watched um following the race, and someone described it really well that Oscar just like read Max's mind. Like he
Mm,
just somehow knew, and it's these are split second decisions, right? Like we know how fast they're going and their reflexes and everything. But he really did just read Max's mind. And it was because something different was happening. But then all of a sudden Oscar just um got away with it. And he was also, yeah, very confident, but also very brave. Like
mm.
if you look at a compilation of Oscar Piastri's overtakes so far this season, they are like, oh my God, what are you doing? Like he's getting away with them and he's making up places and doing very well. But they're very brave. Like
Yeah,
some of them are just like he's just putting his foot down and he's just, flooring it. Yeah, he's so good to watch because he
mm,
is just he's refreshing. Like they're all interesting in their different ways of how they
yeah.
the dynamics they have and the personalities they have with driving, which we've kind of like spoken about before with some of them. But yeah, Oscar, it's just like no fear, and he just reminds me of like a little kid that would just like run around and like
Yeah.
not care if he banged his head on something or like fell over. Like he just seems like fearless but so unfazed by just
Yeah.
all of the rest. He's just driving. He's just racing.
I honestly thought in that race though that either Oscar was gonna end up crashing or with damage, or
Hmm.
Lando was when
Hmm.
both of them were trying to overtake Max because
Hmm.
I feel like yeah, also Max, you just never know what he's gonna do, and it could end up yeah, with somebody crashing or something happening or damage to the car. And yeah, I actually thought I was like, oh no, like Oscar, like you're gonna get yourself out of this race potentially by trying to do
Mm.
this. But no, it was really good.
My P2, honestly, not really about racing, but it's about the event. No, it was about racing actually. I think it was the best drivers' parade I have ever seen. And I've got a few things to say about it. Like I thought it was just so good.
Hmm.
So they had Lego cars,
Yeah.
life-size Lego cars. I
I
saw
know. I mean, like
a
like
video and they
this,
were
but
like,
like life
yeah,
size,
jumbo
exactly.
size.
Yeah.
Um, I've seen so many videos out of it and I've loved them all. So they weigh like a ridiculous amount. They're like 1.5 tons or something.
Tons. Yeah.
I would
I
love
was.
to know how many Lego bricks they are.
Oh,
Um,
I saw this. Ah,
yeah,
okay. Let me see if I
it
can
must
find
be a
it. Yeah.
huge number.
Yeah, yeah, it
Yeah.
is a lot.
Um, so there were ten of them,
Yeah.
and I don't know how they chose who was gonna drive. Um, but then they were just racing them on the track. So it was just carnage. There's people like um just like filming it. Like they had their phones out filming it. Like they
Yeah.
genuinely
Yeah.
had a lot of fun. And like drivers' parades normally are really boring. And
I
like
know.
I've marshalling a couple times, I've been on the track with them, and you get really excited, and because you're standing there, this is your moment to see them,
Mhm.
and they don't care, they're on a truck. And like I probably wouldn't, you if you're going around a big racetrack and you're seeing hundreds of thousands of people, like yeah, you get sick of waiting. So you can't blame them. But then putting them in cars and having them race and have fun, it was really cool to see. Like they all enjoyed it. So many interviews mentioned it afterwards. Lewis, in the must have been the press conference afterwards, said like that was the most fun driver's parade he's ever had. And
Yeah.
let's just think about how many that man has done.
I
Like,
know.
yeah, it just was so cool. I loved how there was just so much damage from it as well.
I
And the
know.
joke was, I think it was Lando who said like there's lots of, oh, it might have been Max. Said there's lots of Lego debris on the track now.
Yeah.
And then I saw videos of the marshals actually picking up Lego
Oh
bricks
no.
because they had to clear the track. So I thought like that would be such a cool souvenir for those marshals who got to pick those up. Um, yeah, but it was refreshing to see. It was so much more entertaining than the normal ones.
Yeah.
All the drivers got into it and they
Hmm.
like posted about it. The teams got cool content out of it. Like it was just cool. So I really hope that it makes Formula One think, why don't we change up a few more of these drivers' parades? Even just putting them in
Exactly.
individual cars, so much more entertaining.
Hmm.
But yeah, give them all Lego. It was great. And one other funny thing that I saw the Ferrari boys asking about it and McLaren as well. And it must have been like one of the master builders or someone who comes with the car sort of thing.
I know what you're
And
gonna
they were
say.
like,
Yeah.
how do we get more power?
How do we
And they
make
were
it
like,
go
no, you
faster?
can't
Yeah.
touch that switch. And they were like, yeah, but how do we get more power? Like how do we, how fast can we go?
Mm.
And they just weren't getting an answer, but they kept saying it. Like they
Yeah.
just wanted
Yeah.
to they
Yeah.
wanted to win still, even though it was Lego. So yeah. It was so good. And then they crashed at the end as well. And I saw a video of Kimmy just running back to the pits, and it was like Kimmy abandoned George for like George to deal with it. It was it was really cool because it was like a race before the race. We basically had three races
Yeah, we did.
this weekend. So yeah,
Yeah.
I really liked the Lego. I thought it was awesome. What a cool way to incorporate the partnership. Like it was just fun
Amazing. Yeah.
and memorable. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was my P2.
Well, that was my P1. So I feel
Nice.
like we
Nice.
we are in like lockstep here, just like slightly different.
Yep.
Yeah, 100% I agree with you. I said my P1 was actually the Lego Drivers Parade.
Yep.
I also think it's a really fitting P1 or to be on our podium because we are the Parade Lap podcast, and you
Mm-hmm.
and I did meet on a parade lap
Uh-huh.
at Silverstone.
And it was not
Uh,
as fun as that one.
no, it was definitely not as fun. I was really like hyped for this thing. We spoke about this. I made a sign. I was like so excited to see the drivers come by. And then
Yep.
I think you included a clip like in our first thing. And it's just
Yeah.
really sad, kind of like, they're on
Yeah.
the back of a
Because they just
truck.
speed past.
They
Yeah.
just go past. It's like pretty like you're like, oh my God, you wait for this and then they're just gone. So yeah, I thought that was such a good idea. Just from, I mean, geez, Lego, whoever came up with the idea, I thought it was so creative, so
Mm-hmm.
different. And what an interesting way to like, yeah, something that's just been done every single race, but to change
Yeah.
it up, be so creative about it. And I think the best bit about it was how enjoyable it was for the races, for the drivers,
Yeah.
like you said. Like they genuinely all turned into kids and had so much fun. And
Kids. Yeah.
yeah, these are people that get to drive like Formula One cars that are like the
Yeah.
fastest cars in the world and all of
Yeah.
that, but put them in like these really slow moving like Lego cars, and it's
Mm-hmm.
actually very exciting.
Mm.
It's also cool because then everybody's in the same car at the same speed, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
you don't have different cars going at different speeds. It's all like the same speed. I think obviously they didn't put them all starting at exactly the same time, but that's where they really like tried to race each other and then had a lot of crashes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I just think it was really cool. I mean, even Max enjoyed it. Like, I'm sure
Yeah.
you saw the clip too, where he was like, he went up to the McLaren and
Yes.
just like hit it just
Touched it at the
before.
start. Yeah, he was being
Yeah.
cheeky. I saw
And
a video
mm,
of I saw a video of them all cutting the corner. I don't know where it was on the track, but they were all cutting the corner. And then it was a TikTok and it had Max and he was driving on the track properly, but it had the like his song. It was just like all the other drivers and then Max. It was just so cool. It was like, yeah. So funny that he was the one following the
yeah,
rules. He didn't want to get track limits.
yeah.
Mm.
And I did. As you were talking, I was like, oh, let me just look up this like video where I saw some of the stats on it. So they
Hmm.
did say it took them 22,000 hours to put them together.
Wow.
Then, I mean, I did feel bad when, like, they were just knocking it, and obviously,
And
but
then they broke them straight away.
yeah, exactly, they didn't know that was going to happen. And each car was nearly 400,000 Lego pieces. So in total, it was like
Wow.
basically like 4 million Lego pieces on that.
Wow.
But they like built them, it was
Yeah.
actually like putting together like these Lego pieces. And I was just thinking about this like tiny, tiny car that I made that was like, for a
Yeah.
6-year-old or something to make. And I was like, oh my gosh, like that is a lot of effort, but like
Yeah.
so well received. Like people loved that. It was one of the highlights. I mean, I put it down as my top thing in Miami just because it was so
Yeah.
fun. And I
Yeah.
do hope that they do different things and that inspires like lots of new ideas for what the
Yeah.
drivers parade could look like because yeah, I feel like we're the Parade Lap podcast, and it would be really cool if they made the parade laps like a lot more
Something
fun.
we could actually talk about.
I know. So let's see.
Yeah.
Like maybe this is what's going to happen like the rest of this year
Yeah.
or next year, where they do some interesting things with the drivers' parade.
Yeah, I think it's something that I like have to mention in this episode anyway, is like how those special helmets, like if you have too many
Mm,
special things, they're not as special. So the thing would be, I guess tracks would maybe bid to have the special
driver's parade.
drivers parades.
Yeah.
Yeah. But even just putting them in separate vehicles is so much more interesting. I
Mm.
don't know why they might have stopped that, because was it at like Silverstone one year and oil leaked out of one of the classic cars, which kind of happens. Because I guess it's all just a time schedule thing that there's less variables with one vehicle than there is with 10 or 20. But
Did
yeah,
they
it's so
did
much
they
more interesting.
maybe did it in as you're talking, I'm like, oh, they did have I did watch a driver's parade where they were in like
Sometimes they have them separate.
yeah, I was
They've
like,
done
is
them
it
in utes as well, like trucks in
maybe it
Austin, it might have
was
been. They used to do
maybe
it in Australia in separate cars.
okay, maybe it was in
Not
Miami
the two
last year.
years I went, it was the year prior. I was
Okay.
so excited for it. I was like, oh no, they're on a trailer. Cool.
Yeah, maybe it was like I don't know when it was, but I'm pretty sure I saw them in like different cars or classic cars. And
Yeah.
like I think there was one where like George was like kind of like sprawled out in a pose and
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
became
Oh
like
yeah,
a
with the
meme or
George meme of him
yeah,
turning around.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. So I was like, oh, was that in Miami? I don't know. But
yeah.
anyway, so they have
So
done
there
ones,
are some of them.
but
Yeah.
not as fun as the Lego one. So
No,
that
no,
was
I
that
think the
was the
Lego
top.
one will be the top.
The
Yeah,
top. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So
yeah. So
that was my
that
number
was a good
one,
one.
which was your number two, and my number two was your three. So
Yeah.
I'm very curious to find out now what was your number one.
My one is just like one that I'm excited about. It's just cool. Um, but not out there, but maybe a little bit surprising. And it was Alex Albon finishing P5, and I
Hmm.
just wrote, woohoo! That's so cool. Like, good on Williams. They got 10 points from that. That's so cool. And he did really well. Like he was battling. He earned the P5. So I just thought, good on him. That's nice to see Williams doing well. It's nice to see just a different team sort of in the mix.
Yep.
Because it's yeah, I'm happy to watch McLaren and Red Bull at the front, McLaren and Max at the front, and then Mercedes pretty much. Either of
Yeah.
the Mercedes are usually lingering around in the 3 to 5 area.
Hmm.
Yeah, so to have Alex Albon in there, I just thought that was a very nice addition to the top five, to the top 10. It's nice to see him in there. So yeah, thought that was cool. So he got my P1. Special mention to Alex Albon.
That's amazing. Go Alex. I also that was the one I had potentially in P3 for my podium. So we would have been like exactly
Yeah.
the same,
If they
just in a
didn't drive
different
Lego cars, they would have been on.
yeah, no, no, it was one of the things I actually just didn't put it in because I think last time for Saudi I was like, oh yeah, like Williams and the DRS train. I was like, okay, I'll leave them because I thought maybe you'd mention them this week too. So
Hmm.
that's cool. But yeah, I put down that just Williams again double points
Hmm.
and like 12 points I think they took away with Carlos also getting in there.
Hmm.
But yeah, like Alex in P5 that was amazing because he basically was in front of both the Ferraris in a Williams.
Hmm.
And I think even in the post-race interview, he mentioned that, not only that, but it was one of the first times where we actually had like Max in his sight. Like he wasn't that far off from the two cars that were in front of him.
Mm.
And he said that may have been the first time that he's actually like seen Max in his even when he was his teammate on Red Bull, that never happened. And so now this was one of the first times where he could actually like
Mm.
see Max and he wasn't so far ahead. So yeah, that was really, really cool for them. I'm very excited for Williams. It was one of my predictions, and I did say that I thought Williams would do better than expected this
True.
season, and they're doing so well.
Yeah, yeah, I just thought it was great. And I also have a little bit of a theory about Alex. I think it might have been his special helmet that helped him out, because his helmet this week was so cool. I loved it. It was I always like seeing the special helmets, and I think I mentioned that as part of like the predictions of like what I was looking forward to. But yeah, the special helmet of Alex was so cool, and it was just like a big orange, and I loved it. It was like the teaser video revealing it was in like a grocery store, and it was a freshly picked Florida orange. I just thought it's nice and different. It didn't have like obvious Miami things that some people do. So I just thought it was so cool. And yeah, I loved it. So I think it might have helped him out. It was
Very
also so
cool.
easy to spot him as
Yeah, it was
well.
super
Like,
bright. When you were
because
saying that, I was just
something
like, it was
happened with
orange. It
Carlos,
was
maybe in
very,
the sprint or something. And
yeah.
yeah, yeah, because I think I watched part of the sprint and something happened with Carlos's car, and someone said, "Oh, it's Alex," and I said, "That's like Carlos." Because I can spot Carlos's helmet, but then I saw just it must have been in the coverage of the highlights or
Yeah.
something, and you just see Alex, but it's just like very blue car, very orange helmet,
hmm
and
hmm
it was a cool mix. So I liked it. Yeah, it was a good one.
It
Did
was
you pay much attention to the special helmets and things?
I think the only one, which was the main one that stood out that I paid it, well, I could not pay attention to it was Lando's like disco ball one. So that was a cool one,
Hmm.
I thought. So yeah, that was kind of it from the helmets. And then I guess that was one of my best ones. Alex's orange one was your best like helmet.
Yeah.
What was like your worst, I guess, or was there anything else that was really good that you want to highlight? Because I have some thoughts. I guess from the helmet, the sort
Hmm.
of uniform change, and then also the car. Like, were there
hmm
any other ones that you really liked?
I loved what V Carb did this week. I just thought
Hmm.
the racing balls in the summer
Like
edition, the
pink,
pink,
yeah.
it was really cool. It just it looked nice on track. Um, the team kits suited the drivers. Like, I mean, Liam has a pink helmet anyway, so I think he really embraced the
Mm,
pink. I also would love to know how far in advance it was planned that they were having that because I can't imagine if Yuki was in the Racing Bulls seat that they would have done the summer edition livery in the way that they did. So I sort of wonder if maybe that was preemptive
mm.
potentially. That's a bit of a thought I had about it. But yeah, it was just, it looked so good and it was well done. Their social media just was amazing this week. Like it was so entertaining. I just loved it. And it was just fun and light and very, I've never been to Miami, but it seemed very like fitting for Miami. It was
Yeah,
just a good, fun vibe. Yeah, I really liked it. So I thought VCarb did a brilliant job with their pink week.
very
Yeah, it
cool.
was just really, really nice. So that was a standout, and I think I might know which one is
That
the
was a standout.
disappointing one.
Yeah, oh my goodness, Ferrari. Like what was
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
Um, I saw so many memes about it. And then I actually didn't think it was real. I saw the meme before I saw the actual car and I was like,
Mhm.
no, like what have they done? They've like missed half of the car. Like what's happening?
Yeah,
And no, that was actually it. So
that was it.
that was it. They just like
Yeah,
made like tiny blue kind of thing to it, and
yeah.
it looked terrible. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it didn't look special, I guess.
Mm.
I thought the race suits were quite nice because
The blue,
when
yeah.
you saw them from like the chest up in interviews, the blue was really quite pretty. Like it's
Yeah.
I saw a interview of Charles and I just sort of figured he was in a full blue suit and then you
Yeah.
think, oh no, it was white. I saw like when they first came out, lots of people were critical of like why is the blue so high, and it sort of made me think that it was like those that a weird thing, but those super cropped t-shirts where
Yeah.
you wear like a singlet underneath and then there's like a cropped one and it's like right up here. That's what it looked like. It looked like they had white overalls with a crop
I
top.
can't actually remember what their like suit
It was
thing
just
looked like.
very high. It
Oh,
was white. So they looked like they were in like a
oh, just
Williams kind of
okay, okay.
V-carb
I see, I
suit.
see, I
Yeah.
see. Okay, I was just looking at the car
Yeah.
and I was like, oh no, like what's
The
happened there?
car
But
was underwhelming.
yeah.
Yeah, but then their helmets were quite nice.
Mm,
Lewis had his normal helmet, but instead of red, it had the dark Ferrari blue on it, which was quite pretty.
yeah.
And I think Charles had a blue version of his one. I can't quite remember. Um, so it was. I think they embraced it to the extent that they could. Yeah, it must be really hard doing interviews and stuff of like we're bringing a special thing, and people go, "Is it?" And they go, "Yeah, yeah." We just have to say what we have to. Yeah, it was
I
a
saw
little bit disappointing.
Yeah, I saw a video and maybe it was a meme or something where it was like Charles and Lewis unveiling the car and then they just like
Yeah.
looked at each other and I think the
And they
captions
wanted to put the cover
yeah, the
back on.
caption was kind of like, oh my gosh, when they know it's really bad too and they can't like do anything.
Yeah,
So yeah, that was quite funny. And then Mercedes,
yeah,
their kit was like really funky and kind of like out there. But then they didn't change their car up. So it was kind of them with those really different kits, and then the car was still
yeah.
the same, which was
Did you like them,
I
their kit?
I don't know. I think in the end it like grew on me a bit. It was kind of like that maroon and pink or whatever it was. Maybe it's like a
Yeah,
bit like these
it's actually similar to
I
yours.
was like,
Yeah,
yeah, I guess I do like it.
yeah.
It's like ripping.
You look like a
Uh,
Mercedes fan.
yeah. It's
Yeah,
probably better than being a Ferrari fan. So yeah, I'll
yeah.
do
At the
that.
moment, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. I thought that Mercedes ones were peculiar. I mean, I liked the colors separately as
Mm,
just colors,
mm.
but on a kit, I just thought they were like kind of weird. And oh, so one of my points,
Yeah.
which we'll probably talk about, is Kimi Antonelli was awesome. The
Yes.
pole position for the sprint, good on him. He is just a legend in the making. So that was so exciting. But my first thought, apart from wow, good on him, was what a bugger that it's in the funny race suit, because those are photos where it's like it's a monumental thing, a historic thing for him to get the pole position. He's the youngest ever, right? So those are historic photos,
Yeah.
and he doesn't look like a Mercedes driver because their kits are usually very, very nice. They're
I
very
know.
snazzy and they're smart looking. And so all these photos that are going to be significant to his career forever are in these suits that,
I know they
ugh,
kind of like seemed a bit more like Hawaiian in a way, or like with the flower.
yeah, they're
Like
kind of weird,
they went really far out. That's why I was so like they went so far
which
out.
was
They
cool for them.
deviated so much with the kit, and then the car. They didn't do any of the car, so it was just I don't know. It
No,
felt a bit strange there. But yeah, I
yeah,
also had Kimmy as one of my points. I thought well done to him.
yeah,
I really felt for him in the sprint and also how he started, where I think Oscar, like, kind of like not pushed him out, but he said he thought that Oscar had pushed him out, but, did a very not like acceptable move on him. And
yeah,
he obviously felt like that. And
yeah,
then, yeah, he was out of the points, from being on sprint pole to being out of the points. Then because of the not disqualifications, but the penalties, ended up at least getting, I think, a
hmm,
point or something in there in the end. So it was Kimmy, but then what about George? Like again, he did it again. He
uh-huh,
ended up like effectively sneaking into P3, right?
yeah, yeah,
And then I also it's his fifth podium in 6 races, and so they're calling him, like Mr. Consistency again. And I also heard somebody mention that like he could be the first like drivers champion that doesn't win a race the whole season, but ends up somehow becoming like the drivers
yeah.
champion just because of
Well, if you are consistent enough, that can happen, can't it? Because if Oscar, Orlando, Max, someone in the front, if they have a few really bad weekends like DNFs or whatever. Well,
mm,
imagine if they all crashed and took each other out, and then all of a sudden, who's going to get most points? It'll be George because he'll be
maybe
first.
George. Exactly.
Like,
We were
yeah,
discussing Max and the two McLarens racing
yeah.
each other, and then exactly
George
they
is
just
just,
crash out, and he's like, "Yes, I'm there. I will take this."
yeah,
Imagine he ends up really close to like
yeah.
drivers championship, like after just
If
sneaking
he
in there.
keeps going, he might be very close. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's doing very well. Yeah,
So that was George and Kimmy. Thought that was really good.
yeah.
Anything else from your side on Miami?
Yes. Well, one thing. So, oh no, I've got 2 points. I'll start with the sad one, then we'll end on a higher note.
Okay.
So Oscar won the race. Very happy for him. Amazing race. The lead they had was incredible. Like McLaren finishing 35 seconds ahead of
Yeah.
George. Um, the best thing was the commentators saying like George is so far behind and George did very well. but the McLarens were so far in front of him that they were out of the car and in parc ferme before he'd even crossed the line. Like
Yeah.
that is how comfortable their lead was. So Oscar winning the race that Lando won last year, which was very significant for his career, very exciting. I saw an awful video that it was beautiful. It was very good, very well made on TikTok, and it was to the "Do You Get Deja Vu" song, and it was flicking between Oscar like looking at the trophy and then Lando looking at the trophy last year, and because it's like the twin allegations are very similar, like all the movements are the same, but there's only so many things you can do when you're picking up a trophy and you're celebrating on a podium. But it was just the parallels between them, and it was just so sad because I mean, surely Lando doesn't care that much that he lost this one to Oscar. But it was just like, wow, that's if the rivalry continues and or
Mm.
develops and Oscar takes a bigger lead, then things like that are really going to
Yep.
start like cutting quite deep because it was like a wow, it was only in the space of a year that had changed so much. So that was something that I saw and it made me a little bit sad, kind of in like a bittersweet way. Like it's that my I enjoy both of them as drivers, but it was
Yeah.
sort of like really happy for one, really sad for the other one kind of thing.
Aw.
Um, yeah, so that was something I noticed this week, and yeah, if you have something to say about that, then we'll do that, and then I'll say my other thing later. But
Oh,
yeah,
do you have
that,
another
that
one?
was
Oh,
one
I was
thing
gonna
I
say that thing that you said leads into my meme of the week. Oh, okay,
yeah
so my meme of the week. I don't know if I'll have to show it. Okay, well, we're gonna put this on so everybody can
yeah
see it. But
yeah
it was basically like it says an accurate depiction of the season so far.
uh-huh
And it's that one with the two people on the bus, like so like literally where you're talking about Lando
yeah
and Oscar now. It's the thing
yeah
where, you've got Oscar with the trophy sitting on the one side and then Lando looking
what
really
Photoshop
sad on the other. I know. But then when you zoom in on this, and I don't think I can do that, but when you put it on, people can see it. But right in the back there, there's like Sneaky George. So they've got him just like peering out, just there in the background, and then
I love it.
further back you've just got like Max like jogging, like running behind it, and that is that is the season at the moment, or I guess
It
like
is
in this race basically, and what it kind of looks like going forward is Oscar
yeah
there, Lando kind of being really sad about stuff, George just like
yeah
popping up, and then don't forget about Max who's just like kind of jogging behind. Yeah.
yeah yeah. Um, okay, I'll jump into my meme of the week then. My favorite meme of the week related to the special helmets, and it was Lando blinding everyone on like the first corner with his disco ball helmet. I thought the helmet was very, very cool. I think it was interesting to watch the world react to it
Mm.
because I mean, because I do marketing, right? Like I can tell when a post is more like for promotional and artistic purposes, I guess, than
Yeah.
like an accurate depiction of this is what he will be wearing on his head.
Yeah.
So the post that revealed it was beautiful with like the disco balls and the sparkles added onto
Yep.
it, and then
Yep.
you saw him walking around, and there was a video of him actually blinding himself with it accidentally because it was so sunny and everything. But everyone, yeah, saying like, "Cool helmet, but is that legal?" And then the business who does the helmet paintings for him, I follow and because they do some really really cool work, and they had to release it as like the FIA approved version and
Yep.
explain that it's actually a graphic that his marketing team does and his brand team, and that it will be printed and not shiny. But the memes that came out of that instantly
Yep.
were really cool. Yeah, but I thought it was a funky helmet, and it carried on with the beach ball and the basketball that he'd had in
Hmm.
previous years for Miami. So it was cool, a disco ball. I wonder if he was maybe a little bit disappointed that it didn't end up in his celebration being for P1 for another win there.
I mean, of
Um,
course, it must have hurt
yeah,
because that has a special meaning to him, I think, particularly that
yeah,
that race.
yeah. But I thought his helmet was very cool. So yeah, my favorite meme was that everyone thought they were going to be blinded by by it, which would be a hazard, but it
Yeah.
looked cool on track. It was pretty. Yeah.
It was pretty. I did see another
Yeah.
meme that had to do with like the Max overtaking and the stuff we were chatting about, which was one where, it's got somebody's face, it's got Lando's face on there, and then it says like you passed Max without crashing. And then it's like Oscar there, and he's like, "What?" He's like, "What?" Like it's hard, like poor Lando. And I thought, oh, yeah, that's kind of that sums up that
Yeah.
situation too. Yeah.
They're really getting lots of the parallel kind of things
Mm,
pop up.
mm, mm.
Which I mean they are very similar in aspects and very different in others. So
Yeah.
it's quite easy to draw those conclusions and people make memes from it. But yeah, it's crazy how much they're like what? It's I guess it's expected the teammates, but they're pitted against each other so much in funny ways and in serious ways.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just these parallels that are never going to not be there.
No, and then
Yeah.
it goes back to, was it last episode where we were chatting about like that mental aspect where it's like
Yeah.
how do you deal with that? And then, how do you process it and then make sure that it doesn't like eat away at you almost, or
Yeah.
you don't like verbalize it also, because you need to also come across as confident, because not
Mm,
only if people see that, but I guess if teammates see that you are kind of feeling a bit insecure or not quite confident, it's something that, you
yeah.
use, like people would use against
Yeah.
you. So yeah, that's interesting.
My other thing for this race was that McLaren was the first team to get a 1-2 in both the sprint race, which we've already established was a very cool one,
Yeah.
and the Grand Prix. So I didn't realize that that hadn't really happened before because people always say the sprint race is basically like a baby version of the real race. Qualifying goes much the same person wins, sort of thing. And that did used to be the case. But I think um, both of them were entertaining in their own way, but for them to be a Lando Oscar win in the finish
Hmm.
in the sprint and then a Oscar Lando in the Grand Prix.
Yeah.
But for the team aspect of that, that's amazing. Like that is
Yeah.
so cool. They are miles ahead of everyone. But the fact that it hadn't happened before, it was like, wow, that is that's an interesting stat. That is a
Yeah.
very amazing achievement, really. So
No.
I enjoyed that. That was cool.
It was very, very cool. And it was kind of, I mean, it's mini race, but it was kind of nice that it was sort of Lando Oscar and then Oscar Lando,
Yeah,
for those two. Also, I didn't mention, obviously it's a sprint, but Lewis got a sprint podium. He's
yeah,
won a previous sprint, this season so far, and now he got a sprint podium. He came third.
yeah,
Um, I think it was extra like sad when I mentioned like the sassy Lewis on the radio, but like I mean he was so happy, he was smiling about his like sprint podium, and then the actual race was so frustrating. So
yeah,
that was cool that he got that, but then obviously you want to see that in the actual races and not just a sprint. But
yeah,
that was good. And the other thing, the
yeah,
interesting thing from the sprint is that Albon, who we said did so well, P5 in the race, he had horrible news like just before qualifying started after the sprint, where he actually did really well in the sprint too. I can't remember, maybe not really well, but he was in the points
mm,
for the sprint, and I think quite, not right at the bottom. And then he found out like 5 minutes before qualifying that, oh, he now didn't have any points and, had a penalty. And so he was also saying how that was kind of hard thing to shake off to going into qualifying.
yeah.
So it was really good to see him, do so well on the race day too after what happened with the sprint.
Yeah. I wonder if they debated like telling him that or not.
Oh, no,
Because
so I saw that happen. So the media told
yeah,
him like in his interview. Oh,
I
did you see it
saw
too?
that.
Yeah.
I saw
I saw
that
that clip.
of
Yeah.
it was like a Alex new reaction drop and he looked shocked.
Yeah, he was like, "What?" And
Yeah.
then somebody, even the other commentator, said, "Oh, I kind of wish we hadn't told him that straight away,
Yeah.
because he then just didn't react to anything else they asked him because he didn't know that and he looked
Yeah.
really shocked." Yeah.
It is that's a very sad example of that. But it does happen sometimes where they're told things. And if it's like during an interview, like
Mm,
Oscar had it famously when he thought they were saying that he was getting a track limits thing, but it
Mm.
was that he got driver of the day. Like when it's told in an interview like that where they are just finding it out and it is a positive thing, it's good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess it's like the line of like the media want the headline, they want the inside scoop,
Reaction.
that
Yeah.
they want it, which
Mm.
absolutely that's their job, that is what they're there for. But it's also like to a certain extent, some things the team should have to tell their driver because like it's such a
Yeah.
mental thing, right? Like to be thrown off by the media is sort of
Exactly.
uh it's a little bit unfair, I guess. But
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, that's crazy.
Okay.
Poor guy.
All
Yeah,
right. Well, I mean, he's okay though, because he ended up
yeah,
P5, so
yeah.
he
He
ended
got
up
like
doing well. Yeah,
revenge from
yeah,
it. Yeah.
exactly.
It was the
Um,
villain arc comeback
yeah.
story.
But I mean, okay, that I guess that was Miami. There was
Yeah.
so many things there.
Yeah, it
So,
was so good. I do think one other thing was that Lewis Hamilton with the sprint, he does well in the sprint races.
hmm.
It is cool that we do get to see that from him. But I saw a thing that it was because Ferrari's better at like the shorter run pace, like in
Mm,
terms of their something about their
car.
fuel weight
Yeah.
term. It's they perform better like over short distances. Um, so it's cool that he's achieving, but if I were him, I think he would be disappointed that he can only perform in a sprint race. Like
Yeah.
that's not how he's gonna win an eighth ever. If that's like gonna keep up that way, there's not enough sprint races to earn points that way.
No,
It's
no, no,
a
no,
bit
no.
disappointing. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I think
yeah,
I've seen, I mean, I think both Ferrari drivers are kind of frustrated with the pace in the car at the
yeah,
moment. And maybe that takes us to next week, or is it the
yeah.
week after? We got two
Week
weeks off
after
because we're going
going
to
into a
back
triple header.
exactly into Europe. So is it Italy? We're going to Imola
Imola
next
first,
race.
Monaco, and then Barcelona.
Amazing. And
Yeah,
I think quite a few teams are maybe bringing upgrades, and they mentioned
yes,
potentially Ferrari making some changes, or I don't know if they have
yeah.
already. So,
I read that the other day they were going to, were they maybe going to bring them to Miami and they put them off to Imola,
mm,
something like that. Yeah.
yeah.
So hopefully, but they did that. Or was it last year? They up did an upgrade before Imola and then they did quite well. Um,
Well, I hope
oh
so.
no,
I mean, it's kind of
it might have been before Monza. I'm thinking
there's going to be
actually.
a lot of pressure on them. So
Yeah.
I really hope it's not a repeat of this with them.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah,
Or
it'll be Lewis's first Italian
mm,
like race in Italy as a Ferrari.
exactly.
Oh, he's probably like, "Whew." Yeah, he has
That
to get
is
the
a
Duolingo
lot.
streak up really quickly.
Exactly. It's a, like I just think it's going to be a lot of pressure on them, especially after
Yeah,
this race. And
yeah,
well, I don't know. Let's see what
yeah.
happens. But
I'm
that's going to be
really looking
interesting.
forward to them. Yeah,
Mm,
the
mm,
European races will be cool. Also, because like being on this side of the world now, um, better time differences.
better time. Yeah.
It'll be nice to watch. Yeah, I'm very excited. I'm not going for the Grand Prix, but I'm going for a little mini holiday to Monaco. The week of the Grand Prix, like on the Monday and the Tuesday, just for a night. I'm just popping over to Nice,
Just popping over to
because I can,
Monaco. Okay, Sophie.
because as a yeah, as a New Zealander, and it takes a day to fly over here. If there's a flight for cheap and available, it's like okay, I'll go there. That's cool. So yeah, I'm gonna go and I'm going with my friend, and I'm gonna go and see Monaco all set up because Formula E just had their E Prix there, and that was fabulous racing. So it will be really cool to see Monaco set up for it was set up for that, and now it'll be the week of the Grand Prix. So it'll just be cool to see, the grandstands and the pit lane and stuff. And Monaco is like my favorite place. So I'm very excited. Yeah, just to go for a little bit of a look. Yeah.
That is so exciting. I feel like
Yeah.
Monaco is like that's also like if someone would say where's the next race that I'd want to watch, it
Yeah.
would be Monaco. Yeah. So
Absolutely. Oh yeah, it's so cool. I went there on holiday last year and I walked the track like 3 or 4 times just by myself. Like I was just solo traveling, but I loved it there. It was just a gorgeous, gorgeous place. Like you can see why people love it so much. It's just a
that's
beautiful part
exciting.
of the world with so much history. It's
I
cool.
mean,
Yeah.
if
So
if you're going to be there race week, then
Yeah.
you may see some of the drivers. Like they
Yeah,
may
I don't
be at
know.
Monaco. And it's quite a small like place, so
It's a very small place,
I feel
yeah.
like
I
you
mean,
may
if I were
bump
them, I'd be
into,
hiding from
well,
people, but
I don't know. I feel like you
yeah.
may end up having some sightings while you're
Yeah, that
there.
would be
So let's
very
see.
cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to the European races. Triple header is going to be a lot, but yeah, I think lots of points to come and hopefully a bit, some action, maybe a few crashes or something, so some juicy things happen.
yeah.
Yeah,
Let's see.
so it'll be good. Is that our wrap up of Miami? We're happy with what we have had to say about Miami. I thought it was a really good one. Best Miami so far.
I don't know
Yeah,
if it was the best. It was definitely good. Yeah.
yeah.
So
Not the best
on,
Grand Prix, but the best Miami Grand Prix, I think.
definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. But it was up there as a good one for the season, I think.
Hmm.
Yeah. Nice. Okay. Well, that was our recap of the Miami Grand Prix with our podiums and a few other interesting bits. And we've got a week break and then we'll be back for Imola. And we'll catch you at the next one.
Yeah. Catch you at the next one.